strong. Don't
Good
forget
day,
to smile.
evolutionaries. What's cracking? I want you to know I am someone who is a bit of a history buff, right? I know how important history is because I know that history tends to repeat itself over and over and over. And if you don't stop it or if you're not paying attention to it, it'll continue to do that. So the only reason I'm here is because I feel like my hand has been forced to be here, because why would people be trying to erase our history? The reason that history is being attacked is because it damages someone's truth. I want to tell you about some truth. This is something that I know a lot of you didn't know because I didn't learn this in school. I learned this in my 40s. The only successful coup d'etat ever performed on American soil was performed in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898. This story, you would think it was a movie, but it's real. And I'm gonna tell it to you right now before they try to sweep this under the rug. You feel me? All right, evolutionaries, let's talk about it. Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898. You have essentially what's going on there. To give you some back context, backstory. You have three different groups over there politically. You have the Republicans, you have the Democrats, and you have what was essentially known as, I think, the Fusion Party. You may have learned about that a little bit in school. Fusion Party was basically former slaves and evolved Caucasian Americans decided, hey, we might as well work together. You know, that's essentially what happened there. And this happened under the Republican movement, because at that time, Democrats were 100% angry, former slave owners who basically didn't want to see Africans rule anything or have anything in this country. And it was stated by a couple of different people, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But let's take a break. Let's pause for a minute and celebrate African and blackness. 1865, right? Africans were so-called free of slavery, emancipation. 33 years later, they're holding seats in Congress all throughout the South.
Here at the bottom are Black Republican representatives, some from Wilmington. North Carolina also sent 4 Black Republicans to the U.S. Congress between 1875 and 1899.
People that were once said to be subhuman, 3/5 of a man, unable to govern themselves in a 33-year time, had reached a stride that it took their former enslavers decades, centuries to get to. Think about that. But anyways, so the Fusion Party was not liked very much by the Democratic Party, simply because they didn't want any Africans having a say so. They felt slighted by the fact that slavery was even ended. So they decided they wasn't going to have it. They stormed down on election day, guns in hand. And what started out to be a small mob turned out to be over 2,000 people. They went through with guns and by force made all of the Republicans submit their positions over to Democrats.
The state Democratic Party handbook for 1898 laid out their goal: consolidate the white vote by stoking white anger and resentment. It said, "This is a white man's country, and white men must control and govern it." Their most effective tool was the media.
Now, that part is the history part. The truth, or the untruth, I should say, comes in when this whole escapade was gone. Multiple lives lost. People had to flee. The first black newspaper and publication of the week, he had to flee because they sent him a letter and told him to be out by the morning. They were going to kill him and burn down his place of business and home, which they did that.
One speech that Democrats printed in Wilmington paper, a prominent Georgia writer named Rebecca Felton said,
"If it takes lynching a black man a day to protect white womanhood, I say lynch."
Her speech prompted a Wilmington black man named Alex Manley, owner of the Black Run Daily Record newspaper, to respond with a column. He made a simple observation that, at the time, was shocking.
That white women who had liaisons with black men did so voluntarily and enthusiastically.
But he fled, he left. This is the rage that we still see today. And the reason it happens is because it is back systemically. It's woven into the fabric. Can't deny it. There's too many cases to show it, but some people don't deal with the truth. You know, it makes them feel weird, which makes me feel weird about them. So they took every position there was. Wilmington, North Carolina at the time was a predominantly black city. And they came through, crashed everything, set out a crazy smear propaganda campaign to make it seem like it was blacks who did this. They were the angry ones with guns.
Their most effective tool was the media. One of North Carolina's biggest newspapers was a Democratic Party mouthpiece. It ran racist political cartoons throughout 1898.
And not only that, they tried to hide this history way back. It didn't start. Like, people who were actually descendants of some of the people who were put through that situation, that horrible situation, were denied access in local libraries when they tried to find out about the situation. They learned about it, they wanted to go do their research. They were denied access.
Shortly afterward, Democrats printed booklets celebrating a glorious victory, and in the newspapers depicted black residents as the instigators.
The people who started this whole mess, out of this, they became prominent political figures. This guy's right here on the screen. They became prominent political figures. Then they rewrote the story saying that they were the blacks' best friends in this situation and that they came to their rescue. The concept is baffling that it's even real. The fact that we have to address situations that there's no logic to. You can't put logic to their thought process in these situations. But you still have to address it because they're just sitting there with a blank face on when you're trying to explain to them how completely asinine and unhuman some of these acts are. They still don't get it today a lot of times. The system still supports what they do. That's why now you can be a degenerate, unevolved Caucasian American who has a racist spat at work, get fired from a job where you're making minimum wage, and white pride will raise 90,000, 100,000, whatever, to put in your purse so that you can be okay for life. That's supporting racism. That's supporting a system that oppresses others. Nobody else in the world does that. So, do your research. I left some links for you to check out in the description of some people who go into a deep dive and give you real details on what happened on that day in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898. Just another one of those instances where black people were, victims of a system that you can't really fight against. Same thing that happened in Oklahoma, Black Wall Street when they bombed. Same thing that happened in Philadelphia with the Move organization. They bombed them. They bombed black people in the 1980s in America. This is not made up, this is fact. So I said all that to say,
My heart beats like an African drum. I've turned numb from all the shit that we've done. Look back and see how far that we've come.
because history is ugly in America. And most of the time, the ugliest parts of the history were caused by the exact same people. It's systemic. They have all the power to do so. So what we have to do is, for one, not allow our history to be erased. Two, not allow them to control the narratives of our history. And three, man up and stand up. It's that simple. Love y'all evolutionaries. Hope you have a beautiful day. Salute.
My heart beats like an African drum. I've turned numb from all the shit that we've done. Look back and see how far that we've come. You are the people of the sun, of the sun. My heart beats like an African drum.